You've been told that when a man falls for you, he'll make it obvious. He'll chase harder, text more, and show you exactly how he feels. But the truth, the men who are really falling for you rarely do any of that. They hide it. Not because they don't care, but because they're scared of how much they actually do. So if you've ever looked at a guy and thought, does he have feelings for me or am I just imagining things? To stay here. Because today I'm going to show you the 5 subtle signs that reveal when a man's heart is falling faster than his words can keep. And no, these signs aren't about how often he calls or the compliments he gives you. They're about what happens beneath the surface, the quiet subconscious signals that tell you his emotions are slipping past his control. Once you spot them, you'll see the truth he's been too afraid to say out loud. You think you can tell when a man is falling for you? Think again. Most women are watching for the wrong signs completely. The truth is, when a man starts truly falling in love, he doesn't act like the characters in romantic movies. He doesn't suddenly become more attentive, more available, or shower you with obvious affection. In fact, he usually does the complete opposite. He may become quieter, more careful, and start behaving in ways that make you question everything you thought you understood about how men show interest. Here's what most women don't realize. When a man begins to feel real emotions, his first instinct isn't to move closer, it's to protect himself. And in that instinct to protect, he reveals everything. The clues are there, but they're subtle, hidden behind layers of logic, fear, and emotional caution. If you can recognize these hidden signals, you'll know exactly when he's falling for you, even when he's trying his hardest to hide it from you and from himself. Have you ever been with a man who seemed genuinely interested, maybe even connected, and then suddenly his behavior changed? Not cold, not unkind, just different. You probably assumed he lost interest. But what if that shift is actually the biggest clue that his feelings are growing stronger? Today, we'll explore 5 powerful signs that a man is secretly falling for you. Signs that most women completely misunderstand or miss entirely. The first sign might surprise you. He starts mirroring your emotional pace instead of leading with his own. This doesn't mean he's being passive or just following your lead. It means something deeper is going on. A man who's only casually interested moves at his own rhythm. He texts when he feels like it, makes plans around his schedule, and maintains whatever emotional distance feels comfortable to him. His behavior stays consistent because his feelings aren't complicated. He's not worried about getting hurt, so he doesn't need to be careful. But when real feelings start forming, everything changes. He begins unconsciously matching your energy, your timing, your level of openness. It's like his emotional system starts syncing with yours without him even realizing it's happening. This is his heart trying to stay connected while his mind tries to stay protected. You'll notice this in how he responds to your messages. If you take a few hours to reply, he suddenly takes a few hours too, even if he was responding quickly before. If you share something personal, he matches that vulnerability with something equally personal from his side. If you pull back slightly, he mirrors that distance. And if you lean in, after a brief hesitation, he leans in too. This isn't game playing, it's emotional calibration. Think of it this way. When a man only wants something casual, he doesn't need to sync with you emotionally. He can stay in his own world, operating on his own terms. But when deeper feelings start developing, you become more important to his emotional state. Your mood starts affecting his mood. Your energy influences his energy. He's no longer just thinking about himself. He's unconsciously adjusting to stay in harmony with you. This pattern can also show up in how he makes plans. One week you suggest hanging out and he's immediately available. The next week you're busier and suddenly he mentions he has things going on too. It's not that he's being difficult or playing hard to get. His brain has started treating your availability as a signal for how much emotional space is safe to take up. When you're open, he feels safer being open. When you create distance, he creates distance to match. You might also notice it in conversation depth. If you keep things light and surface level, he stays there too, even if he's capable of deeper talks. But the moment you open up about something meaningful, he follows. Not immediately sometimes, because he needs a moment to feel safe, but he follows. That matching behavior shows that you've become emotionally significant to him. He's no longer just having conversations. He's trying to stay connected to where you are emotionally. What makes this so revealing is that it's completely subconscious. He's not sitting there thinking, she took 3 hours to text back, so I should wait 3 hours too. His emotions are doing it automatically. When you matter to someone, their nervous system starts paying attention to yours. They become attuned to your rhythms, your patterns, your emotional temperature. It's biology and psychology working together. The difference between someone who's not interested and someone who's falling for you is in the attention behind the mirroring. A disinterested person might occasionally match your pace out of politeness, but there's no real tracking happening. But a man who's developing feelings is constantly, unconsciously aware of where you are emotionally. He's reading your signals even when he doesn't mean to. He's adjusting his behavior based on yours because staying connected to you has become important to him. This sign can be confusing because it doesn't look like pursuit. It looks like he's just reacting to you. And in a way he is. But that reaction is the proof. When someone is emotionally neutral about you, they don't react much at all. They stay steady in their own world. But when feelings are involved, reaction becomes inevitable. Your emotional state starts mattering to his emotional state, and that shows up as mirroring. Sometimes he'll even mirror your hesitations. If you seem unsure about something, he becomes unsure too. If you express doubt about where things are going, suddenly he's expressing similar doubts. This isn't him being wishy-washy. It's him unconsciously trying to stay emotionally safe by not being more invested than you appear to be. He's protecting his heart by matching your level of caution. What you're really seeing when this happens is emotional synchronization. Two people starting to operate as a connected unit instead of two separate individuals. And that only happens when feelings are real. Casual connections don't create this kind of attunement. Only emotional investment does. The second sign is even more unexpected. He becomes protective of his time with you in subtle, almost possessive ways. Now, this doesn't mean he's jealous or controlling. It means something much quieter and more revealing. When a man is only casually interested, he's flexible about when and how he sees you. He's fine with group settings, last-minute changes, or sharing your attention with other people. But when real feelings develop, the time he spends with you starts feeling precious to him. And he begins, often without realizing it, to guard that time. You might notice this when plans come up. He becomes less enthusiastic about group activities and more interested in one-on-one time. Not because he's antisocial, but because when you're in a group, he can't connect with you the same way. He can't have your full attention, and increasingly that's what he wants. He might not say it directly. He might just suggest, why don't we do something just us next time? Or find reasons why certain group plans don't work for him. This protective instinct also appears when other people try to take up your time. He won't necessarily say anything obvious, but you'll feel it. If you mention plans with someone else, especially another man, he gets quieter or changes the subject. If someone interrupts your conversation, he seems slightly irritated, even if he's polite about it. He's not trying to control you. He's just realizing that the moments with you matter more than he expected, and anything that cuts into those moments feels like a loss. Here's why this happens. When feelings are shallow, time together is just time together. It's nice, but it's not special. But once emotions deepen, every moment with you starts carrying weight. Those hours become the best part of his day, the thing he looks forward to, the time when he feels most connected. And when something matters that much, protecting it becomes instinctive. You'll also see this in how he reacts to distractions during your time together. If his phone rings or someone tries to pull him away, he's quicker to dismiss it than before. He might glance at a message and immediately put his phone away. He might tell someone, I'm busy right now, I'll call you later. These small choices show that being present with you has become a priority, not just a casual activity. Sometimes this protectiveness extends to the quality of time, not just the quantity. He starts caring about where you go and what you do together. He wants experiences that allow real connection, not just surface interaction. He might avoid noisy places where you can't talk properly, or suggest activities that give you time to actually be together without constant interruptions. What makes this sign easy to miss is that it doesn't look like big romantic gestures. It's small adjustments in behavior that reveal shifting priorities. He's not declaring that you're the most important person in his life. He's just unconsciously treating your time together as valuable. And that value shows up in how he protects it. This can also appear in how he talks about future plans. He starts mentally blocking out time for you before you even ask. He might say things like, "I'm keeping Saturday open," or "I made sure I didn't schedule anything that day." He's creating space in his life for you because that time has become something he doesn't want to risk losing to other commitments. The protective feeling can even show up physically. When you're together in public, he positions himself in ways that create a sense of privacy between you two. He might angle his body towards you, creating a subtle barrier between you and the rest of the room. He guides you through crowds with a hand on your back. He creates these small moments of closeness that make the outside world feel less intrusive. What's happening underneath all of this is emotional investment translating into protective behavior. When someone becomes important to you, you naturally start guarding what you have with them. It's not about possession. It's about recognizing that something valuable has entered your life, and your instinct is to protect it from anything that might diminish it. You'll notice this when he brings up something you mentioned weeks ago in passing. Maybe you said you liked a certain type of flower, or you mentioned a movie you wanted to see, or you talked about a childhood memory. Most people would forget these details within hours. But weeks later, he references it like it was an important conversation. "Didn't you say you loved these?" Or "Isn't this that movie you mentioned?" These callbacks aren't about showing off his memory. They're proof that you're on his mind more than you realize. This kind of attention shows up in countless small ways. He remembers your coffee order without asking. He knows which side of the bed you prefer to sleep on. He recalls that you don't like a certain type of food, or that you have a meeting on Tuesdays. These aren't things you emphasized or repeated. They're details you mentioned once, maybe even casually, and somehow they lodged in his memory. Here's why this matters. When someone is emotionally neutral about you, information flows through them. They hear what you say, maybe respond appropriately, and then it's gone. But when someone is developing real feelings, their brain starts cataloging everything about you. It's not a conscious choice. It's what happens when someone becomes significant. Your words, your preferences, your stories, they all become valuable data because you've become valuable to him. This detail retention also appears in how he responds to your needs before you ask. He notices you're cold and offers his jacket before you mention it. He sees you're tired and suggests leaving early. He picks up on your mood shifts and adjusts accordingly. This isn't mind reading. It's sustained attention that comes from genuine care. What makes this different from surface level interest is the specificity. Anyone can remember big things you tell them, but remembering the small, seemingly insignificant details, that only happens when someone is truly paying attention because they care about understanding who you are at a deeper level. You might also notice that he asks follow-up questions about things you told him before. If you mentioned a work problem last week, he asks how it turned out. If you said you were nervous about something, he checks in later to see how it went. This continuity of attention shows that your life isn't just background noise to him. He's actually invested in what's happening with you. Sometimes this shows up in surprising ways. He might remember something about your family, your friends, or your past that you barely remember telling him. "Didn't you say your sister's getting married next month?" Or, "Is this the friend you mentioned who lives in Chicago?" These details prove he's not just listening in the moment, he's retaining information because you matter. The emotional weight behind this behavior is significant. When you remember small details about someone, it's because you've been thinking about them. Those details don't just disappear from your mind because that person doesn't disappear from your thoughts. Every little thing you learn about them becomes part of how you understand them, and that understanding matters when you're developing feelings. What makes this behavior so easy to misread is that it can look like uncertainty or lack of interest. When he's being indirect and careful, It seems like he's not sure about you. But actually, the opposite is true. He's being careful because he is sure about his feelings, and those feelings matter enough that he can't risk just throwing them out there without knowing how they'll be received. The tests become more revealing over time. Early on, they might be about basic compatibility. Does she laugh at my jokes? Does she seem comfortable around me? But as feelings deepen, the tests become more emotional. Does she handle it well when I'm vulnerable? Does she stick around when things aren't perfect? Can I trust her with the parts of myself I usually hide? Men who are falling often test through small acts of vulnerability. He might share something he's insecure about and see if you use it against him later, or if you hold it gently. He might show up in a less than perfect state, maybe tired or stressed, and see if you're still interested in him or if you only liked the polished version. These moments aren't random. They're strategic emotional experiments to see if you're safe. Another way this shows up is through observing how you treat other people. He watches how you handle conflict, how you talk about past relationships, how you respond when someone disappoints you. He's gathering data about who you are emotionally because that information tells him what would happen if he fully let you in. The reason men do this isn't because they're naturally distrustful. It's because by the time these tests are happening, they've already developed feelings, and now those feelings need protection. He's not testing to decide if he likes you. He's testing to decide if it's safe to show you how much he already does. What's important to understand is that these tests aren't conscious manipulation. Most men aren't sitting there thinking, I'm going to test her by saying this. It happens instinctively. When something matters, we naturally become more careful with it. We check, we observe, we gather evidence before we commit fully. It's emotional self-preservation. The key difference between testing that comes from emotional investment versus game playing is in the consistency of his overall behavior. A man who's playing games shows no real vulnerability himself, but a man who's falling shows vulnerability in small, measured doses and watches to see if it's safe to show more. The testing is happening alongside real emotional opening, not instead of it. The fourth sign is subtle but incredibly telling. He starts remembering the small details about you that most people forget. Now, this might sound like basic interest, and in some ways it is, but there's a difference between polite listening and the kind of attention that comes from genuine emotional investment. When a man is falling for you, the small things you say start sticking in his mind, not because he's trying to remember them, but because everything about you has become interesting to him. A man who's not emotionally invested doesn't feel this way. He's happy to share your time, include others, or be flexible about plans because none of it carries emotional weight for him. But a man who's falling feels differently. The time with you isn't just time anymore. It's become something he needs, something that feeds him emotionally, and that need creates protection. The third sign is one of the most misunderstood behaviors in dating. He starts testing your reactions before showing his real feelings. This doesn't mean he's playing games or being manipulative. It means he's emotionally cautious, and that caution reveals just how much he has at stake. When a man doesn't care deeply, he doesn't need to test anything. He just acts however he feels in the moment. But when real feelings develop, suddenly there's risk involved, and before he fully opens up, he needs to know it's safe. You'll notice this in small, subtle ways. He might mention something personal and then watch carefully to see how you respond. He's not just sharing information. He's checking whether you're the kind of person who handles vulnerability with care. If you respond with judgment or dismiss what he said, he files that away and becomes more guarded. But if you respond with understanding, he files that away too, and slowly he opens up more. This testing behavior also shows up in how he reveals his feelings indirectly. Instead of saying, I really like spending time with you, he might say, this was fun, we should do it again sometime, and then watch your face to see if you seem genuinely interested. He's putting out a small piece of his feelings to see how you receive it before giving you more. It's emotional risk management. Here's what's really happening. When a man starts falling for someone, rejection stops being just disappointing. It becomes genuinely painful. So Before he puts his real feelings on the line, he needs evidence that those feelings might be returned. He starts testing the waters with smaller gestures, safer statements, and indirect expressions to gauge where you stand. You might see this when he talks about the future. He won't say, "I want to be with you long term." Instead, he'll say something like, "It would be nice to travel together someday," or "I could see us doing this again." These hypothetical statements are tests. He's floating the idea of a future to see how you respond. If you seem excited or engaged, he'll say more. If you seem uncertain or change the subject, he pulls back and stays cautious. This testing extends to physical affection too. He might reach for your hand briefly and see if you hold back or squeeze his hand in return. He might move closer and see if you lean in or create distance. Every small action is a question, and your response is the answer that tells him whether it's safe to show more. Men who are falling often surprise themselves with what they remember. He might mention something about you and then realize, wait, how do I even remember that? It's because his subconscious has been filing away everything about you, building a detailed picture of who you are. That's not something he can fake or force. It happens naturally when someone becomes emotionally important. This attention to detail also reveals itself in gift-giving or thoughtful gestures. When he does something nice for you, it's specifically tailored to who you are. It's not generic. It's not what would work for anyone. It's something that shows he knows you, that he's been paying attention to what makes you unique. What you're seeing in all of this is cognitive and emotional investment. His brain has started dedicating resources to understanding you, remembering you, and anticipating your needs. That only happens when someone has moved from casual interest to genuine emotional attachment. The small details he remembers are proof that you've become someone worth remembering everything about. The fifth and perhaps most powerful sign that a man is secretly falling for you is this. He starts showing you his unfiltered self, but only in careful doses. This might sound contradictory to some of the other signs we've talked about, and in some ways it is, but that's exactly what makes it so revealing. A man who's developing deep feelings exists in constant tension between wanting to be fully known and being terrified of that vulnerability. So what you see is a pattern of opening up, then pulling back, then opening up a little more. This controlled vulnerability shows up when he shares something personal he doesn't usually share, and you can feel it means something for him to tell you. Maybe it's about his family, his fears, his past failures, or his dreams. He's not doing it casually. There's weight to it. And after he shares, you might notice him becoming slightly self-conscious, almost like he's checking your reaction to see if he revealed too much. And here's what matters most. These signs don't just tell you that he's falling. They show you how he falls, how he handles vulnerability, how he manages fear, how he protects what matters to him, and how he gradually opens up when he feels safe. That information is more valuable than any confession because it shows you who he actually is when real emotions are involved. So when you notice these 5 signs showing up in his behavior, don't rush to make him admit his feelings or force him to move faster than he's ready for. Just recognize what's happening and give it space to unfold naturally. The man who's secretly falling for you needs time to reconcile his feelings with his fears. And the more patient and understanding you are during that process, the safer he feels moving from secretly falling to openly loving you, because that's ultimately what all of these signs are building toward. That moment when the secret becomes too big to keep hidden, when the careful vulnerability becomes full openness, when the testing gives way to trust, and when the man who's been falling quietly finally feels safe enough to fall completely,